And we are live. Hi, we're still looking at this. Believe it or not, I'd more or less decided this was finished. This is the Rapidus 800 XL for anyone who hasn't already watched the previous videos. But there is new information. Modern Atari 8-bit computers here. Hey, good work on those videos. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy them. Okay, so some new information arose today. I don't know if Latharic's been watching the videos, but we've got a couple of new things to try, because although I was reasonably happy with this machine, Latharic has posted a couple of new suggested fixes on the Atari Age forum, which includes a pull down on the O2 signal, which I eventually twigged on can be picked up in 2 different places, as he quite correctly says. So we're going to try that. We're not going to take the pull-up resistors off the address lines, because I'm pretty sure that they're not going to do any harm, even if this does make a difference. And what else did we do? Hi Atari fan. What else did we decide to do? Oh yes, possibly pull up resistors on the other address lines, but that's a lot of work. I don't think we'll do that. Not least because I don't think I've got any 3.3K resistors in the parts box. So what I have got is a couple of 3K resistors. So let's see what we can do with one of them. So I'm not going to have a vast amount of time this evening. Tonight was supposed to be about where is it? Where did I put it? It was supposed to be about the SCART lead for the VBXE on this machine, but that is probably going to have to wait, because SCART leads are a complete pain, and I'm going to need to be relaxed and calm and focused, and I'm anything but that at the moment. I'm too excited to try this. So this is what we're going to try. Fix Rapidus. Well, this is what I'm told. We've got all the ingredients here. We have all the ingredients. We have an NCR CPU. And I think that was just about the only ingredient. We have a non-Freddy machine. We have an NCR CPU. We have a replacement 74 LS08, and we're about to put a pull down on O2, and this apparently fixes everything. So let's go ahead and do it. What I'm a bit pissed off about is the fact that Conrad, I mean, admittedly I did use trigger words. So I used the trigger words corroborating and overheating in the same sentence, and that must have set off the early warning mechanism. So I mean, I begin to doubt myself. Why on earth What on earth possessed me to try and put a heatsink on a 6502? What the fuck? Why would he do that? What? You know, why would anybody try such a crazy, ridiculous thing? You know? But if a year later it helped fix the issues, then what a happy accident it was. Because Lotharic writes that he identified some overheating issues with certain... Hi, Shocking Shuckle. How are you? I hope the audio is not clipping because it seems pretty high. If the audio is clipping or crackly, you will let me know, I hope. Testing 1. That's really high. That's peaking really bad. Testing, that's really, really high. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. How is the audio? Because it's a little late to test it now. Audio's fine. Okay, because it just seemed to be peaking a lot here. What happened? Shocking Shocko asks, what happened? Well, Lotharic has appeared out of the blue on the forum with some really encouraging ideas about how to eradicate the last of these reboot on reset issues with the Rapidus, which is really the only thing that's wrong with it now on this machine. And he wrote that he'd identified some CPUs that were subject to overheating issues. Overheating issues, that's what I read on the forum post there. It's yeah. Lauren Brown, only coming from the left speaker, and that is because I've forgotten to mix it down to the single speaker. Thank you. That should fix it. And the frame rates look a little jumpy as well, and I'm going to turn off. There's a reason why I'm having all these glitches. Deactivate. Okay, and back to here. Is that smoother? Yeah. Because I'm gonna do a departure for a minute. We took a trip into Durham City the other day, which is about 20 miles away from here, and it has a fantastic cathedral, which my wife and I visit the cathedral every time we go there, and it's just a fantastically impressive, humbling piece of architecture. And the weather was very, very bad, but anyway, when we got off the bus in Durham, sounds good now, that's excellent, brilliant, thank you. When we got off the bus, because I'm using Logitech C910 and B910 webcam for these screens, and when I got off the bus there was a shop nearby, and I saw this webcam in the window, which is a Logitech C920 webcam, and it was on sale for £10, £10 British. And I thought there must be some sort of mistake. I couldn't, it's second hand obviously, and it just seemed too good to be true, because I thought the second hand value of these things was about 40 or 50 quid. Yet these older cameras that I use are generally quite a bit cheaper, and I opted for them because I thought the quality was better. But I was always curious as to whether the more modern, well, I say more modern, I mean it's 4 years old now, but whether the more up-to-date, the replacement for the C910 would actually be better. But I didn't really want to spend 60 quid on a new one, so I bought this, and I was pretty convinced that the assistant in the shop was going to say that the thing had been mislabeled, but no, sold it to me for 10 quid. It must have been mislabeled. And later on, when I checked the website for this shop, which specializes in second-hand technology goods, it should have in fact sold for 45 quid. So I got home and set the thing up, and I was testing the speaker, the microphone and stuff like that, which is why I messed up the recording system. And actually the quality is not as good. It uses 264 compression in hardware, and I think the reason that the frame rate on this camera was stuttery a bit there was because I had the thing plugged in on the same USB controller. So but yeah, the video compression in hardware on the camera, so you actually get a H.264 video stream through the USB port, but it looks soft. It looks soft, whereas these cameras, I think they're pretty sharp. So that's why I had the audio all messed up. But yes, anyway, to get back to the point, Latharek said he'd identified some overheating issues which were responsible for this particular reset issue, this reboot on reset issue, this Rapidus. And I said that it was nice to finally have these observations corroborated, because when I first stuck a heatsink on the Rapidus back in April last year, so we're talking about over a year ago, when I trying to figure out why this problem was occurring, and not really getting a great deal of feedback, concrete feedback at the time. And I stuck my finger on the top of the CPU when it was in the mode that was tending to reboot when you press reset, and the CPU was boiling hot. It seemed to me that it was hotter than normal, so I thought I'd stick a heatsink on it, and it had an effect. Now, I suppose it's a subjective thing as to whether the thing was hotter than normal, so I was fairly open-minded about the fact that is it actually overheating, or do we have to keep the thing cooler at a normal temperature, or even lower than a normal temperature, for Rapidus to work. This was something that was pretty much an unknown, and yet today Latharek has decided that certain CPUs do overheat, and yet I'm still getting a load of shit about the fact that I didn't measure it with a thermometer. I mean, who gives a shit? Does it really matter now whether it was measured with a thermometer or not? I mean, if the developer wants to argue the toss about whether or not the CPU overheats when the vendor has just said that it does, well, you argue between yourselves. Argue between yourselves, because it's not my job to prove that the CPU does overheat. You know, it's the developer's job to make sure the device works. So, you know, I don't have any reason at all to pick fault and nitpick with this device. I just want it to work. I want it to work in a way that doesn't require an endless hour after hour after hour of trying different things and pull up resistors and pull down resistors and tweaks and fixes. But then again, some people on the internet just... Do you think this overheating the CPU is a general failure maybe of cabling? Or could that be normal to spend this CPU cooler? Shocking Shocko asks. I don't think that the CPU temperature is going to have anything to do with the cabling. at all. And I don't even know why it would overheat yet, because we're assured that it's not, the CPU isn't held in the state that would there's a documented situation where was it reset or halt? I think it was halt, when the CPU held in a halt state, that it could overheat. But it's not held in a halt state because Rapidus holds it in a reset state, apparently. I think I've got that right. So we have no explanation yet as to why it would overheat, and yet the vendor says that it does overheat. But he hasn't elaborated on why it overheats. Perhaps they don't know why it overheats. But I'm really arguing with somebody who just wants to nitpick and rake over the detail of a problem, or a reported problem, or how a problem was discovered, or how a problem was suggested or reported. And people who seem more concerned with being right, basically, being correct, being seen to be correct. It's almost like they have some sort of a radar and early warning system that just immediately goes off, because within 5 minutes of writing on the forum that it was nice to have some corroboration of the idea that operating temperature could be, yo, we have a Twitch viewer. It was about 5 minutes after I wrote on the forum that it was nice to have some corroboration, or some kind of validation of the observation that the CPU temperature, whether it's too hot or not, had something to do with the stability of the Rapidus. It was in about 5 minutes that Conrad turned up on the forum, and that was entirely expected. That was entirely in character. Entirely in character. So, you look just like my dad. That's weird. I'm probably old enough to be your dad, but I don't think I am. Unless there's been some horrible mistake. I'm going to have to put that in I'm going to have to put that in on the margins, who knows what the power consumption of Atari plus VBXE plus Rapidus plus stereo plus U-switch? Probably a fair bit, which is why I'm using a 3 amp power supply, which used to run a what the hell are those things called? What the hell are they called? My mind's gone blank. The devices that you use to get the Atari online. It's a serial to Ethernet device. It's got a serial port on one end and an Ethernet device on the other, and I can't remember what they're called. I think it used to power one of those, this particular PSU. So we've got 3 amps, which is, I should imagine, is plenty of overhead, plenty of slack. Hey Stephen, how are you? What's happening? We are trying the latest suggestion to fix the stability on the Rapidus upgrade, which is a CPU accelerator and an Atari 8-bit computer. And it is a long saga, and I don't want to mess the thread up anymore on the forum, arguing with somebody who can't be wrong. So I've taken it to YouTube, because this is and I can't find the end of the solder. Where's the end of the solder? I see a certain someone with a... I'm assuming that refers to a Falcon, Stephen. He must have a Falcon, or he likes them. Conrad is a very, very, very clever man, but Yeah. It's my own fault. I used the trigger words. It was a post edit, and I put the trigger words in. I should have just left it alone. 5 minutes. That's all it took. Where's the end of this solder? Oh, there it is. Okay. Is he still pissed that you wrote your own driver for the last word? I've never seen him have an issue with anyone. It's comical to see the two of you going back and forth. Yeah. He was probably right about the, well, I don't know. The VBXE driver thing. I don't know. It's, perhaps it's because he is very intelligent that, you know what I mean. Anyway, let's get 8 bits. Awesome. Why am I dragging this camera? Oh, this camera looks nasty. Let's fix this up. Oh, that looks horrible. Washed out. Focus exposure. Ah, it's terrible. Low light compensation knocks the frame rate to hell on here. White balance, auto white balance. Camera control, low light compensation off. That looks terrible. Terrible. Holy, that's sex to my eyes. That motherboard is sick. Says COOM8Z3Y. Good job. Thank you. If I can only get this camera to look anything but horrible and green, I will be happy. Exposure's too high. Yeah, it's gonna have to do. The image was good for a moment, yeah, because I turned on the I turned on low light compensation, but it kills the frame rate in this camera. It kills the frame rate on the C920 as well. But let's try it. Let's try it again. Auto exposure, low light compensation, then it's good, but the white balance is off. Ugh, it's horrible. Not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but if it's your thing, check out 8-bit pornography. I think you would need a VBXE for that, at the very least. we only have, how many colours? 16 colours, 16 hues. There's not much you can do, and there's not much you can do in graphics 10. I would even have a hard time with that. I would struggle. Oh, God, that's awful. Exposure, low light compensation. Oh, Jesus. Aha. Well, just bump the exposure up. That'll do for now. Ah, this really needs to be restarted. Deactivate. Activate. Configure video. Camera control. Exposure. Automatic. Apply. Okay. This is as good as it's going to get. We'll just have to make do with this. So, here is our pull down resistor for the O2 signal. The purpose of this is to defeat the reboots on reset. This is what's going to do it. It's going to work. But you must never run 8-bit pornography on a Rapidus machine, because your CPU will overheat. And you must measure it with your face, not with your fingers. Okay, so that's it basically. Let's have a look at this. Where are we? There we go. Well, it's focused and everything. Wow. So I can trim those legs down and tidy that up a bit later on. Well, that's what we've got for the moment. So let's do a couple of little tests. Let's do some tests. Let's get my video cable. Get my power supply. I wonder who will be in government tomorrow in the UK. Okay, test. Let's get a keyboard. Now I'll get the multimeter and test the voltage on the CPU as well, because we can't just trust that the machine is switched on just because the power light's on. We need scientific evidence. We need measurements to show that the machine is switched on. So let's get to picture in picture. Is it that one? Yes, it's this one. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. Turn on. Turn on. Ha! As if to illustrate the point, the power light's gone on the keyboard. Oh my god. Jesus. So there we go. I think Rapidus is turned off at the moment. So let's go ahead and switch it on. Rapidus core disabled. Let's enable it. Let's save. Let's reboot. Now we have the Rapidus core. So things should work pretty well for we'll turn on, let's turn on Sparta-DOS X. Okay, things should work pretty good. I'm in the wrong mode, aren't I? What bitrate am I on here? Output stream. Video. Yeah, we're good. Yep, still working. So, do a couple of little tests. It never reboots in Rapidus mode anyway. Never reboots in Rapidus mode. Oop, just knocked the volume on the mic. There we go. So let's go into the Rapidus BIOS setup. Let's go into classic mode. Now, as I said about classic mode, there's not really any need to use it. Save and exit and reboot. So we're now in classic mode. Stephen says, do you know why PAL machines output wavy diagonal lines like that? To me, when I use a PAL machine, it looks like every other scan line has a slight pixel shift. Is that like the... It's like the kind of sawtooth effect down the side of the, say, the blue section of the screen. That must have something to do with the... Has that got something to do with the PAL blending? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I looked at Dr. Venkman. Did he post a picture of the his 1200 XL with a UAV video board in it? I thought that looked excellent. And obviously that was an NTSC machine, and you're saying that, as you say, they don't appear to have that issue. I thought that video looked excellent, so one thing I'm going to do soon is pick another one of those 1200 XLs out of the cupboard, and I've got a UAV board, and I'm going to fit it in there and see. I'm going to leave it NTSC and I'm going to see what it looks like. So that could be fun. Okay, we are back. So this classic mode is the 65816 CPU running at about 2 megahertz or thereabouts. That's what my CPU test seems to suggest. Let's give it a while to warm up. Maybe I should measure the temperature now. Maybe that would be a good idea. Oh, you've got to laugh, haven't you? Where would we be if you couldn't laugh? Where would we be if we couldn't laugh? Rapidus headquarters, by the look of it. So, pressing reset. Yep, it just rebooted. So the next thing I'll be told to that I must ship the machine to Poland for further testing, no doubt. Ain't gonna happen. Sorry. The CPU isn't even that hot. It's not even that hot. So this fix could conceivably have made it worse. But this is only this machine. I'm not saying it's a bad fix. Far from it. But just in this case, it doesn't appear to work too well. Yes. So what's next? What do we try next? What should we try next? Shocking shock. Oh, seems very stable. Congratulations, you made it one more. Yeah, but the issue of when you press reset in classic mode, which is the 65816 kind of emulating the standard speed system, the machine reboots. It shouldn't reboot. But quite honestly, I'm not that bothered now. I'm not really that bothered anymore, because I've explained how we can work around this issue by simply not running in classic mode. So if we go back to into Rapidus mode, and let's just make sure that this still works. Maybe I'm supposed to take the pull-ups off the address lines. I don't know. But when I took the pull-ups off the address lines, the thing rebooted straight away in all modes. At least with the pull-ups on the address lines, the lower rate address lines, it doesn't have the issue in accelerated mode, in Rapidus mode. So we reset. Why? What? Is somebody going to figure this out? Why this only happens in classic mode? Can somebody please figure this out? See, I'm pressing reset. Oh, wrong view. Which view do I want? So I'm pressing reset, pressing reset, pressing reset. No problems at all. No problems whatsoever. Let's go into classic mode. Looks to me like a bug in the Rapidus firmware, says the modern Atari 8-bit computer. The funny thing is, that so? There is a bug, same reason that there is a bug loading XE cartridges. Okay, see you later, Stephen. The funny thing was that they did release a firmware update, and on one machine I tested, it did fix this issue. It did fix this issue. Okay. So anyway, wrong view. Voice said that the XEGS bug is known and working to be fixed in the next firmware upgrade. Well, that's great. That's good news. If there's another firmware upgrade coming along, that's brilliant news. Because I just want it to work. I want it to work for the sake of the owner, apart from anything else. Let's put it in classic mode again. Save and exit. Shocking shock, or maybe a voltage problem on the 6502C in classic mode. As I understand it, in classic mode, the CPU is held in a reset state. So that's as far as I know. What that can do to the rest of the Rapidus board, bearing in mind the system is running on the 65816, I don't know. But I think these issues are reproducible and must have been witnessed and seen by enough people by now that this can't be the only machine that doesn't work with this pull down on the O2 signal. It can't be the only one. It's a CIA plot, or perhaps the Russians. They're fiddling with Rapidus. Honestly, you would think that was the case, the amount of crap that I get just for trying to help to get the thing to work when not many people were actually talking about it and not many people had the board. So, joking aside, my natural reaction to what's said on the forum, not by Latharek, who's trying to help, who's trying to fix the issue, but if the attitude of the developers is to just nitpick and basically go into denial about issues, then I just won't install them anymore. So the next person that says, can you install Rapidus and an Atari, I'll just say no, because it's too much trouble. I've got no control over the firmware side of things. I wouldn't know how to change the firmware. That's for Pasu. Latharek's probably better qualified than I am to suggest modifications to the board, pull-ups, pull-downs. So other than just installing the board in how many machines now? Other than installing the board in a 1200 XL, 130 XE, another 1200 XL, and then this one, and having the same problem in every machine at some point or another. Oh, and 130 XE that had no other upgrades in it, but still had the reset issue when a Side 2 cartridge was plugged into it. Okay, what was this in chat? The modern Atari 8-bit computer writes, my 130 XE with Rapidus and VBXE does not reboot in classic mode, so may not be a bug in the firmware. Yeah, maybe not. Who knows? But the first firmware update that I saw came in September of last year, and where did I have the board at the time? Can't remember. At the time, I think I had the board in 130 XE with Rapidus, with Ultimate 1 MB and Rapidus, and that firmware update on that machine fixed the reset issue. Fixed it. And then I tried to put the board back in the 1200 XL with the ultimate 1 megabyte and the VBXE and hard disk and loads and far too much stuff, and it didn't improve the situation on that machine at all. So, but I was happy that in the case of that 1200 XL there was just far too much stuff in it, far too much cabling, and it would never work. So the change to the firmware definitely made a difference. So what is wrong in this case? Just confirmed and checked this. But again, my Rapidus is in an XE computer, not an 800 XL. Yeah, well, that was the other thing, of course, when I first got my Rapidus board, which was donated by Lethargic. The first place I tried it was in a 1200 XL, and that's the first place I saw issues with it. And of course, one of the developers said that the Rapidus isn't meant for an XL machine, it's meant for an XE. Despite the fact that there's a... Where's the board? Have I got the board? I'll get my board. I'm going to get my board. Oh no, it's up here. Right. So straight away, the nitpicking began. The Rapidus is not even designed for XL machines, it's designed for XE machines. How can you criticize it for having problems in an XL machine when it's designed for XE machines? When it's designed for XE machines. You can clearly see that it only says XE, not XL XE. So that pretty much set the tone for the rest of the discussion, I think. Would you not agree? I think that set the tone for the rest of the discussion. So, the other thing on this board, you see that 5-way header on the front? So that it's unpopulated 5-way header. That is a direct replacement for the 5-way header on a 1200 XL. So if you take the 5-way ribbon cable on a 1200 XL, which is for the power LEDs, the power LED and the other two LEDs, you can plug it in there, and the Rapidus makes the LEDs light up in pretty ways. Specifically designed for the 1200 XL. Specifically designed for the 1200 XL. And yet the first comment was that it's not intended for XL machines. Yeah, that set the tone for the rest of the discussion. That set the tone. Just more of the same. I've got no problem with this. Well, when it works properly, I'll have no problem with this. But, come on. Come on. Let's spend less time arguing the toss about semantics and let's just get the thing working. But this is my fault for not sending the machine back to Poland a year ago, obviously. Because I'm so completely helpless with a soldering iron and completely inexperienced in putting any kind of board in a computer that I just don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. Anything that comes out of my mouth can be attributed to user error, obviously. Having said that, let's catch up on chat. But again, my Rapidus isn't, yeah, XE. I think, joking aside, I think it's more stable in the XE. I think it's more stable in an XE. Also, Also plugged in a side 2 card to the 130XE with a Rapidus, with a VBXE in it, and it can reboot fine in classic mode. Just tested this. Yeah, which completely correlates to my experience of the Rapidus with the newest firmware in my 130XE with the Rapidus and an Ultimate 1 megabyte. Everything works great. Everything works just great. I mean, what worries me a little bit about this setup here, aside from anything else, and we should be nice and warm now. Ow! Right, that I can. After about 10 to 15 seconds, that becomes very, very, very uncomfortable. And that is an NCR CPU. But what worries me a little bit about all this stuff is just the amount of cabling that's involved in this Rapidus thing. Now, if that works on another machine, then great. But I just worry a little bit about the amount of cabling involved. And I mean, these machines that have been tested with this pull down, you know, where was the Ultimate 1 megabyte situated? How long are the cables? I mean, this cable's been shortened. This Rapidus cable's been shortened down. Ow. Yeah, that's very, very hot. That is very hot. But it may be no hotter than normal. Perhaps I burn my fingers on every 6502 chip that I put my fingers on. I must check in the future. I should actually get the temperature probe out for the multi-tester. That would be fun. Can I find that in a hurry? Let's see. I've never even used it. Let's try the temperature probes. And let's bump the gain on this camera a little bit because it's getting just a little bit dark. Just a little bit dark. There we go. Right, what do I do with this? Apart from read the manual. Right. Let's see. Degrees centigrade. Aha. This looks good. Any particular orientation? Yes. That way. Let's plug this in. Are we still running here? Yep. We're still running. Okay. Right, how warm am I? Let's see where I am. See how accurate this is. Let's put the test away and see it. Oh shit. $35 degrees. 36, 35, that's pretty good. That's pretty accurate. So let's try. And let's turn the soldering iron off in case this introduces any external influence. Okay. Let's see where we are with temperature. Try and get in the middle of the chip, eh? .56 and climbing. Are we holding steady 56? 57? Back down to 56. So according to this, it's actually cooling off. So 55, 56 centigrade on the top of the package. Jesus, that is uncomfortably hot to the touch. But perhaps that's normal. Perhaps that is normal. I am open-minded. On the right side of the CPU, let's measure on the right side of the CPU, which is admittedly where I had my finger. So let's measure on the right side of the CPU. I'll try and do it without pushing a lot of keys and things. Let's try on the right side of the CPU and see where we go. So I wonder how the election went, or how it's going. Oh yeah, because the polls are still open until 10 p.m. 10 p.m. And then tomorrow we will know who is in government. I'm tempted to think it could be a coalition, but I don't know. It seems cooler on the right hand side. We'll move a little bit towards the center. And then it's climbing. It does seem to be warmer there, but much warmer in the middle. And we're about in the middle now. This could be a complete waste of time, and it could prove nothing. 55. Yeah. 56. 57. Okay, so that's our temperature. So what Lithorax seems to suggest is that what Lithorax seems to be suggesting is that only certain CPUs overheat. The NCR not among them, so that might be an ordinary standard operating temperature for an NCR CPU. I shall have to go away and test that. But the Mexico CPUs and the, is it Cinetec and other brands tend to overheat. So whether that means that the other brands become hotter than 57 degrees, or whether the other brands just run at the same temperature but start to malfunction or cause problems, I do not know. It did not go into that much detail about it, so I have no way of knowing. So let's press reset, and it didn't reboot. And now it has rebooted. So yeah, it rebooted. So the way I look at it at the moment is that I've spent enough time on this, and if the good workaround is to just not use classic mode for this machine. Unfortunately, the pull down on O2 has not made a difference, has not improved the situation, and we appear to satisfy all the other criteria, including the correct CPU. We already swapped out LSO8. But I've still got to make this cable, so I've still got to make the SCART cable. So, and I'll do this tomorrow, and I'll show you how I'm doing it if anybody's interested in seeing. And by the time we've finished the SCART cable, maybe somebody's come up with some other ideas about this machine, and if they haven't, I'm going to screw the lid on and send it back, because this has been going on for a couple of weeks now at least. So in the broader scheme of things, I don't say that it's that big of a problem. That it reboots in classic mode, just don't use classic mode. That would be my advice. Or perhaps you're lucky and everything just works out of the box, or the fix that's been suggested works just fine. I mean, nothing else on the board is FPG, fairly moderate temperature. Yeah, that CPU may not be any hotter than it normally is. So why does keeping it cooler make a difference? Why does, let's say that we're artificially lowering the temperature of the CPU to sub-normal values. Why does that make a difference? Does anybody know why it makes a difference? Does anybody know what's going on with this? Does anybody know why, if the CPU is one of the models that overheats, why does that cause the machine to reboot? Why does holding the CPU in a reset state cause it to overheat? I don't know. But it is not my job to figure these things out. So, thank you for the interesting comments in chat. I suppose that any testimonies from users, any experiences from users of this board are going to be helpful in information gathering. I would say when trying to address a problem like this, as a developer, it would be sensible to accrue as much information as possible, however outlandish and however unscientific it may be supposed to be, because that's how we find solutions to things. So we're up to date with chat. It's getting time for me to say goodbye. yeah, so it's a shame that didn't work, but not to worry. I really appreciate Letharek taking the time to come on the forum and suggest these things, and it may just be this is just one of these difficult machines that just doesn't want to play the game. But that's not such a big deal. The machine is perfectly usable in its current state, providing classic mode is avoided. So, that being said, I think it's about time to get out of here. So what I was going to do tonight, I will now do probably tomorrow night, which is make the video cable. And if nothing changes with Rapidus, that will be the end of the assignment. So, in the meantime, thank you for your comments in chat, and thank you for watching, and I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.